Inspector Scrimmer can't be with us tonight. He's on vacation, so I am here to fill in for him. We also have a guest tonight. Police Officer Elisa McVeigh is here from our Homeland Security Office at headquarters. She's going to be giving a short presentation on an overview of the Homeland Security Office, and also she's going to touch a little bit on active shooters. We've had a lot of inquiries as to some kind of presentation on that, so tonight she's going to touch on that a little bit. I'm going to give you a short little something on what's been going on in the precinct over the last month. Things in the precinct have been very good, crime-wise, over the last month, and really throughout the whole year and last year too. A couple of areas we were trending upward in have come down a little bit. We were up in aggravated assaults for the year, and still are a little bit, but over the past month we've only had 2 aggravated assaults. One was a domestic situation. It was between a husband and wife. They got into an altercation. This was in Melville. The husband backed his car into his wife's car on purpose. He then got out of his car and he went over to his wife's car. He stole her cell phone and her keys from her person. And when he was doing that, she stabbed him in the arm with a pocket knife. Wow. So she was arrested for the aggravated assault, and he was arrested for the robbery. But it wasn't a situation that was random. It was a very personal, targeted kind of thing. Wow. The other aggravated assault was another dispute between 2 people. It was over money. It was in Huntington Station. One person hit the other person over the head with a bottle, and that person received a laceration to the head. He went to Huntington Hospital, and the other person went to the 2nd Precinct, and he was arrested for assault 2nd degree. So that covers our aggravated assaults for the month, and also the 1 robbery that we had for the month. And I think that's the only robbery we've had for quite a while. And it's been, like I said, things have been very good in Huntington Station, in Huntington overall. One area that we have been trending upward in, and we were trending upward in until last night, where it kind of took a little bit of a spike, and that's been burglaries. I think yesterday we had like 4 or 5 burglaries in the precinct. None of them really seem to be related to each other. We're kind of investigating these burglaries, or the 2nd Precinct Detective Squad is investigating the burglaries to see if any of them are related. We don't have any crime patterns currently in the precinct relating to burglaries. The 4th Precinct does, which is right next door in Hopog, and we're looking at them right now to see if they are related to what we have going on here in the precinct. At the most, what we got here is maybe 1 or 2 that might be related. We really have to scrutinize those pretty well. It's not in the same area. They're a little bit off. Some things are different about them. But I would like to go through the burglaries for the month. We've had about 14 of them total. And I don't want to bore you with details. I'm going to go through them pretty quick. The reason I want to go through them basically is so you know how people are getting into homes and what you can do to prevent that yourself. So here we go. I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. And the way the format's going to be tonight is I'm going to give you the short presentation. Officer McVeigh is going to give you a presentation. So save your questions for after her presentation. We're going to direct our questions for her presentation first. After we're done with questioning for her, then we could ask, we'll open it up for questions for the rest of it, concerning the precinct. Questions.
Sorry, just ask you one quick one. What's the difference between robbery and burglary?
A robbery is the forcible stealing of property from a person. A burglary is when you unlawfully enter a building or a premise with the intent of committing a crime therein.
Thank you.
Okay? So you have to, before you break into a place, you have to have an intent of committing a crime in there. If you just break into a house and you don't have an intent of committing a crime, you just break into, get warm or just to hang out or whatever you want to do or watch TV, that's not a burglary. You have to go in there with the intent to steal something, with the intent to cause harm to somebody, or something like that. Okay? And the robbery is nothing more than really a larceny. You're stealing property from somebody but using force to do it. All right, the burglaries in the 2nd Precinct. On Henry Street in Huntington on November 8th, between 7:25 in the morning and 4:30 in the evening, somebody made entry through an unlocked door and stole assorted silverware. We have made an arrest on this. The person was found to be selling that at some pawn shop, and we tracked him down through a pawn system, and an arrest was made recently on that. Another burglary on Claypitch Road in Elwood. The person entered through an unlocked slider in the back and stole assorted jewelry. This person, the homeowner, was on vacation for about 2 weeks, and it looks like they probably left that door unlocked, and the person made entry through that door. Again, like we talk about the cars and the larcenies all the time, lock your doors, lock your windows, lock your houses, lock your cars. People think we're so safe, and we are safe, but, you know, we just open ourselves up to these crimes of sometimes opportunity. People just walking around, checking doors, and if the doors are open, they're going in. If they're not open, they're probably not going in. Rolfe Drive in Dix Hills on November 15th. Unknown person entered by unknown means into a house and removed the wallet. The homeowner had video of this. He had video of the guy in his house. We don't know how he got in, but we're still looking for him. November 22nd, there was another domestic incident in Huntington Station. It was a boyfriend-girlfriend dispute. The boyfriend broke into his girlfriend's house through a basement window, and he was arrested for a burglary. So that was cleared by arrest. That was a domestic dispute again, which are very different from these other burglaries that are random, where the victims are more random than these that arise out of some kind of confrontation. We had an attempted burglary on Acorn Drive in East Northport on November 24th. The person tried prying a rear window and a rear door. He did not get in. There was a dog in the house, and we think that may have deterred him and scared him away. November 25th and 26th, between 6 o'clock in the evening and 7 o'clock in the morning on Grange Street in Greenlawn, somebody forced the rear window open and stole cash from the house. Another burglary on November 29th, Woodhull Road in Huntington. This was a cottage that was kind of on the same property as the house. They broke a bathroom window and went in. The house was ransacked. Nothing was stolen, nothing that they could tell was stolen. The homeowner couldn't find anything stolen. It was still carried as a burglary though. We think they were looking for something. Maybe they did steal something that they're not telling us about. November 29th, between 7:15 in the morning and 7:30 in the evening. That's one we just did. Another attempted burglary on 11/27 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Studhoff Road in East Northport. This occurred on 11/27. It was reported on November 30th though. The homeowner received an alarm call that there was an alarm going off at their house on November 27th. They checked their house. They didn't think anything was wrong. A couple of days later, they found that a screen had been removed from the back of their house, a screen on a window, and the screen had actually been placed somewhere else on the property. And she noticed that. She called it in, and it looks like it was an attempted burglary. There were some pry marks on the window. The alarm went off, and we think that deterred them. So alarms, dogs, and locked windows and doors always help out. A couple of commercial burglaries also occurred over the last month. There were 3. One was at Bottles and Cases on East Main Street in Huntington. Somebody walked in with broke the front glass door, went inside. He had a mask on, and he stole 2 bottles of Ciroc, which I believe is a vodka. Is that? Yeah. He was wearing a mask, but they did get him on video, and this guy happened to be wearing some other clothes that happened to be very distinctive. And he was wearing the same clothes a couple of days before when he went into the store during business hours to buy something. So we were able to go out and get him too. Yes. Cozy Nails is a nail shop on Jericho Turnpike in Huntington Station. On December 1st, unknown person with a hoodie and gloves pried the rear door and stole some cash from inside. And then yesterday, there were a couple of burglaries. One was on Springwood Road in Huntington. These are, again, residentials. Broke a rear slider with a planter, with a cement planter. They threw through the rear slider, went in and stole some jewelry. Greenleaf Drive in Greenlawn on November 26th to December 2nd. It happened in that time frame. Unknown person entered by breaking a second-story window and stole handbags from inside the house. Nothing was in the handbags, just the handbags themselves. And then there was an attempted burglary on Cedrus Avenue in East Northport on December 2nd. That was yesterday. They pried the rear door, the slider, and the window. The alarm was activated, and no entry was actually made, and of course nothing was taken from the house. There were 2 other instances of commercial burglaries. We consider them commercial burglaries because the buildings, they're both on Park Avenue. One was the Temple Beth El That was on Thanksgiving night, the 28th, at around 11 o'clock. Somebody broke, we don't know if they broke in, we think there was a window that was left open, and they went in through there and stole some money. The night before that, and this wasn't reported until yesterday, at Young Israel, which is another Jewish institution on Park Avenue, somebody had broken into that on the 27th, the night of the 27th into the morning of the 28th. Again, we don't know exactly how they got in. Probably through a door on the side of the building. Stole some stuff from a charity box, some money from a charity box. That building happens to be attached to a residence. The person did go into the residence and then also stole some money from in there too. We're investigating these here in the 2nd Precinct. These we don't carry as hate crimes. We always have a lot of questions about hate crimes. We carry these as burglaries and we investigate them here in the precinct. We do contact our hate crimes unit on this to see if they want to pick it up or to see if it actually qualifies for something that is a hate crime and that they think should be investigated by them. We did contact them, and there's no evidence that this was motivated by hate other than the fact that it was a Jewish synagogue. And we do take that very seriously, and when we do make an arrest on this, those questions are asked to the guys that did the burglary. We ask them why they did it, and sometimes these guys will talk to us, and we'll find out why they did it. And if there's anything there that leads us to believe it was done for some kind of biased reason, then we do turn it over to hate crimes, and it is prosecuted a little bit differently than a regular burglary. And then there was another incident. There's the Huntington Jewish Center, which is on 660 Park Avenue, just north, I believe, of those other two places. And there were 2 youths, as the best we can tell. There is a video. 2 kids, one had a mask on. They shot out the light to the front of the building, and then they went around the back, and they shot the glass door out with a BB gun. With a BB gun. The video is not great, but we're hoping that it does lead us somewhere. We have Crime Stoppers out on both of those, so on the website we do have some pictures for you guys to view. That's it for the burglaries. It's been a lot. It's been a busy month as far as the burglaries go. We have 4 of them are cleared by arrest, so we are making some headway into them. Like I said, there is a pattern in the 4th Precinct, some similarities to 1 or 2 of ours, but it's, we're still looking at that right now. Stolen vehicles was another area that we were kind of creeping up in. We only had 2 this month. One was a Harley Davidson stolen from behind a auto repair shop on New York Avenue in Huntington. We did not recover that. And then there was a 2019 BMW X5 stolen from a residence in Melville. It was a BMW. It was equipped with GPS, and it was tracked to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and it was recovered there. So that's really, that's it. I don't want to go into too much else. There's not too much else to go into, to tell you the truth. I want to turn this over to Elisa McVeigh. And again, if you have any questions or any concerns about anything else in the precinct, we can save those for the end of the meeting. Right now, have Elisa McVeigh give her presentation, and you can ask her questions right afterwards, and our questions can come later on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It's very nice to be here. And thank you to the 2nd Precinct for inviting me to speak with you. Again, my name is Elisa McVeigh, and I am a police officer with the Suffolk County Police Department, and I work in the Homeland Security Unit at Police Headquarters in Yaphank. We're not the federal Homeland Security. We are all Suffolk County police officers, and our office has many, many different functions. And one of the functions that we perform is helping to train or present general awareness to businesses. We work very closely with businesses, with schools, places of worship, because of the concern, as we have now, of active shooter. And what I will do with you, I will go through an overview of our program. And if you're interested in bringing it to your school or your business or place of worship, I will give you my card, or if it's something that you would like a topic of your community meeting at a different time, I would be happy to come back and to give that program as well. And we work very closely with the precinct. I know the officers well. We always work together. We're just another added layer of what the county provides to our citizens. Our overview of active shooter, because of course this is a concern. active shooters, that they don't care about us, they do not care about our children. Their only goal is to kill people and to take out as many people as they can in the quickest amount of time. And of course, we hear many media reports, especially of what's going on in different states and in different countries, and we think, because these topics, it hits close to home, because we think of our own family, our own place of work, our own children at school, and we, of course, are concerned about our own safety, and we would never want this to happen here. The good news is, statistics show that you do have a greater chance of being struck by lightning than being involved in an active shooter incident. The chances are very, 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 very slim. You also have a greater chance of winning the lottery. But we can't be dismissive in that thought, to think, okay, it's never going to happen, because it could. Just as I was in the police academy as a recruit, we were told as officers, chances are you'll never be involved in a police shooting, slim to none. Well, it happened to me. So again, I just share that with you because we can't be dismissive. And the goal is just really general situational awareness. The protocol in schools in Suffolk County is completely different than if I were telling you options and considerations if you were at work, or if you were at church, or if you were at the mall. And we will go through and we'll address some of those reasons, because again, I'm sure you have your own family, children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and you will be out and about in public, especially during this busy time of year that's approaching. So active shooters, as I mentioned, they don't care about anyone. Their only goal is to take out as many people in the quickest amount of time. If the police get a call of that nature, we are responding there extremely fast, within minutes, if that. And active shooters, they know that. And that's why their goal is to take out as many people, because the clock, they can't risk eating up that clock. So they're working on a time limit. And active shooters are guided. They have guidance, and it is a scary reality out there that what is on the internet, we have the other scary problem of terrorism. We can't forget about that as well. And we have terror websites out there. We have terror publications out there. And we have chat rooms out there where people compare past active shooter incidents, and they talk about their conversations as, how can we do this better? How can we kill more people than in that incident? And they might obsess over past incidents, and it really does start with a grievance. Chances are, if it were to happen in Suffolk County, it would be a Suffolk County resident. They don't tend to travel far places from home. Whether it's the prior student from the school, they have a problem for whatever reason, or it's the loved one of a patient that sadly passed, and it's the doctor's fault. They have a grievance with that doctor or that hospital. Or it's the workplace issue, where it's because I was terminated, I have a problem, and they build up this hatred, they obsess. Most of the weapons in active shooter incidents have either been obtained legally and or by someone that they know. And sadly, this problem is not going away anytime soon. Does not mean that we have to accept it. What it means is that we need to have our plan. What is our own plan with our family? In our workplace, do we know that plan well? That document, whether we are a teacher, whether it's a business, what is the emergency plan? And we know that as far as that written document goes, that nothing will go exactly as to cookie cutter and will go to perfect. But it's good to have that guidance there. And again, I stress with you your own personal plan. For example, how many of you really, when you go out and about, you are fully aware of your exits? And some of you are, a lot of you will raise your hand. Some of you might not, and that's okay. But I stress that it's very important. The second you sit down at a play, at a sporting event, at the movies, is to look around. Where are the exits? And that is critical because time counts, seconds count. Not just for an incident of violence, but it could be that fire. It could be the fight that erupts. It could be the gas leak. It could be anything, any situation at all. And chances are when we are in a stressful situation, or even life-threatening, we do not have time to think. Adrenaline is rushing. We don't have time to process. And chances are if we're evacuating, we're running out of somewhere, if we can, most people will go to the exit where they came in because that's what they know. So just having the heads up on those alternate exits really are crucial. For example, public places like the mall, restaurants, a lot of exits are by the restrooms. So husbands, follow your wives in a situation, because if you've had a child, you know every bathroom from Manhattan to Montauk. So that's something to think about. So now I bet you this week and when you're going shopping, you're going to be looking for the restrooms and the exits. Again, something to think about. And also having a plan with your family. For example, my plan with my family is we meet by the car. We're not going to leave by the car, but I like to say meet by the car. And if I'm in the mall and if I hear, for example, code red, some places use codes. The Suffolk County Police, we advise plain language is best, because we advise, we want to give a chance for people to save their life. We're going to clearly react differently if we hear code red versus active shooter. I know before being an officer, if I didn't know any better or the difference, I would just keep shopping. So, for example, if I'm in the mall, my plan with my family, chances are my husband's on the bench with the bags and the kids, and I say to him, I'll be back in 10 minutes, but it's really 25 minutes. And if we hear an alarm, we just know with each other, meet by the car. Because if I spend time looking for my family and they spend time looking for me, that's, again, eating up valuable time. And the suggestion is to avoid leaving by car. I'll actually ask you, why do you think that might be a suggestion, to avoid leaving by a car? Maybe you can meet by the car if you're out and about. And you see it, people can't drive on a good day. And chances are, if we are in a stressful situation, we're probably going to crash. And of course, that will affect the first responder vehicles. So it will be a very heavy traffic situation, and we want to leave room for the vehicles. And we do respect alarms, whether we're in Costco, whether we're at the mall, whether it's at work. We really did learn a lot after September 11th. When that first plane hit, people were told, stay in your seats. And there were people that did stay, and then there were people that were out of there, and they left everything behind. And that's an example of, if we don't know what we're doing, chances are we are going to listen to someone else that doesn't know what they're doing. Even though their intentions are very well and they mean well, but we really need to know what we're doing. And if we're in the situation of violence where it's the sound of gunshots, and some people might think, well, what might gunshots sound like? And naturally, active shooter situations, it's when we're most vulnerable. So we think in a school setting, when is school most vulnerable? Arrival, dismissal, lunch, recess. When we're caught off guard, if we think about the Las Vegas shooting, a concert, who would ever have guessed that that attacker was on the 32nd floor? Was it fireworks? Was it part of the show? Was it a stunt? We're caught off guard, so we would be startled. And if we're stressful in a situation, we might pause, and we might wait to hear that sound again. And then the instincts will take over. So pretty much our options in an active shooter situation, it's run, hide, fight. And we think of this, sadly, it's the 2019 stop, drop, and roll. Hopefully you've never been in a fire, but chances are, if we are in one, we know what to do. We were taught that since we're very, very small. So this is just the easiest way to remember it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. But if we can get out of somewhere, we want to get out. Get out. And we want to be able to hopefully take whoever is with us, our family, our loved ones. But keep in mind, not everyone might be able to run. So there is a chance that we would have to leave people behind. And if we are with our family, there is a possibility that we could get separated from them. And that's another reason why it's important to have that plan, have the conversation with your family, the little people in your lives, even my own children, in an age-appropriate way. All right, if something happens or we have to leave the movie theater, we're going to meet at the pizza place across the street. Right? Just like that tree at your neighbor's house when we talked about fire safety when we were much younger. Conversation, age-appropriate way. So if we can get out, we want to be able to get out. I will stress to you in a little while the difference of why schools are advised to lock down. If we're not able to get out, we might have to hide, or vice versa. Where can we secure ourselves? And I will tell you, people will call our office, what's the best gadget, the Gazmo, this, that? A simple locked door. Locked doors save lives. In 220 incidents, the most recent ones that the FBI investigated, not one door has been breached by an active shooter. Does not mean that will always be the case, because active shooters, the trends might change. For example, if I was talking to you years ago, I would say most active shooters, they take their lives before law enforcement arrives on scene. That happens, but we see a shift where we see them now engaging in law enforcement and or being taken into police custody. So it doesn't mean it's always the way, but when we talk about the studies and the statistics, they are on our side. Another statistic that 98% of the time it's one attacker, and most of the time it's a male. Sorry, gentlemen, that's the way it has been. And it can be two attackers. We know there are incidents where there were two, but that statistic is important to take note because, again, if we're out and about, we're at the mall doing shopping, and if we hear what could be the sound of gunshots coming that way, statistically, do we have a good chance of survival just running that way? Absolutely. And again, they do plan, so there could be other methods to their plan. But the statistics, as I mentioned, are on the side. So if we can run, we run, hide, securing ourselves just that simple locked door. And not only to lock it if we can, but if we have the time, if there is a door chalk close by, or if we can even barricade the door with desks, with chairs, anything that we can buy time for law enforcement response. I recently went to a training by an institute that goes across the country. And their training focuses more on the fighting and the running, even in a school setting. And it all made sense after, because what do you think the average response time in other states might be, or even upstate New York?
15 minutes.
20 minutes.
Minimum about 25 minutes, even for an active shooter incident. So therefore, it makes sense where their training in other parts of the country are focused on other means, whereas here in Suffolk County, we know response time is fairly quick, so it's really about buying time. School settings, Suffolk County stands is lockdown. Lockdowns have been effective in situations, and schools are very, 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 very safe places. They are safer more than ever before. And school districts work closely every single day at anything that we can do better. There are other terms called lockout in a school. So naturally, when social media gets involved, when students are texting their loved ones, and they might use the term lockout, for any kind of term, that's going to cause concern and chaos for that family member, especially that parent. And then the phone calls, they will go into the school, the precinct will get a flood of them. I will tell you the difference between the two terms. Lockout means something is happening outside of the school. Not always police activity. It could be the rabid animal, the vicious dog that's close by. And basically schools operate in a modified lockout every day. Schools have a great visitor policy, but a true lockout is no one is allowed into the building or to exit the building. And I will tell you, in a lockout situation, that school, that's the safest school in Suffolk County at that moment. And that's good to remember because, again, we hear that term, we get concerned, we get nervous, we might want to go to the school. That's a lockout. Lockdown means there is a threat inside the school building. And the teachers are trained how to gather the students. And lockdown is simply get behind that locked door. And if there's the time to barricade that door, just buying time for police to arrive. And they're trained on how to sweep for extra students that might be lingering in the holes or in the restrooms. And so that's the difference. So lockdown, why is that different than if I were telling you if you're at the mall or for that movies to get out? Because we can't have numerous students running out and about into the hallways. We can't have it as that free-for-all. And the theory behind the lockdown, if that attacker, if it looks like no one is in the room, and if the door is locked, there is a good chance they're going to keep moving on. Because why? Because their clock is getting eaten up, and they know that. So that's the theory behind the lockdown. The ultimate last resort, and we do not encourage this in schools, of course, this would be going back to the other settings, is to fight. defend ourselves. And we might think, I don't have a knife on me, I'm not a black belt in karate, some of you might be, or I'm not into Krav Maga, some of you might be, but it could be using our voice. Simple things. And every one of us has a different side of us. We can all say, every one of us. I know I look back at my childhood, my mom, I'm still scared of her. And if we got in trouble, her different side would come out. So we all have that. So we use our voice, we use that tool. And it could be throwing objects, anything to distract that attacker. We also talk about in our program that we can come to about using a fire extinguisher. Most places have them. And it sounds silly, but that was one of the methods in the recent terror attack in London, the fire extinguisher. And we've been talking about that. Anyone can use it. You pull the pin and you spray. And we advise in the facial area. Because again, anything to distract the attacker. Because if their hands are free, and if they're still conscious, they will still continue to be a threat. And law enforcement, our role, when we show up at a scene such as that, the first officer on the scene, they're going in. They're going into that school. They're going into that mall. We are not waiting for backup. And this is pretty much the protocol here across the country right now. We know help is coming. We know that they're going to be there very, very, very fast and very, very quickly. But we have to neutralize that threat. And another difficult part of that would be us having to bypass the victims in order to get to that threat. Again, we know help is there, but we have to stop the killing so we can stop the dying. So that's our response on an active shooter situation. And typically, for law enforcement, it is also very difficult because we don't know who that bad guy or that bad girl might be at that moment. And we all don't know, and any one of us in any situation, we don't know what it is at that time. And when calls come in to report active shooters, they're always reporting more than one attacker. And that's what we're going in there thinking, even though statistically, I told you it's one attacker. And we are in mind of security guards that might be armed. Here within the precinct are our places of worship, are the businesses. They're very good about notifying us to let us know if we have an armed guard, and it will be uploaded into our computer system so responding officers can know. Because when we train, I will tell you a little tidbit, when we train with our officers, we're always shooting each other as cops. That's the way it is. And we train like that so that doesn't happen. And I share that with you because we're trained. When we see a weapon, that's a threat to us. And that just shows the importance of when officers responding to a scene like that, we're not going to be nice, and we'll be, let me see your hands. If someone says, I have a bad knee, it doesn't matter at that moment because we need to get to that threat. And accurate reporting is essential. And hopefully we all would never have to face a situation such as that, but officers, Suffolk County, we train on a regular basis, and preparation is what we have control over. And the biggest thing right now is the prevention part of it. We know that we can't prevent everything in life, and some things in life that we have no control over. But an active shooter, they do not wake up out of nowhere and say, this is what I'm going to do today. It takes planning, and it can take up to 1 year in planning, at least several months. Therefore, the signs will be there. And this is the big thing that the schools are going to now, is the prevention part of it. Businesses, when we meet with businesses, we will go over and meet. How do we handle maybe a terminated employee? What's your policy? Any concerns? Because when I mentioned that terrorist the publications, I will share with you, our office reads them. Because we want to know what people are being told. And one of the most recent publications advised, what's the quickest way to get into a building? And their advice is just put a box in your hand. That's what these publications advise, things like that. How to properly rent a U-Haul truck, knives, using knives as your weapon. But if we think about it, what might we do if we see a person struggling with a box in their hand? We're going to be nice, and we're going to want to hold the door for them. You don't always have to be so nice. Don't always be so nice. And it's good to be very nice, but you don't always have to be. Maybe you work in the company where you're responsible for buzzing people in, and you have that uneasy feeling that something might be wrong. Always trust your gut instinct. That is very, very, very helpful. Always trust that. If something doesn't feel right, it's not right. Maybe at your place of worship, there is that disruptive attendee. How might we handle that kind of a situation? And sometimes when we meet with churches and synagogues, they might share a story with us and say, we had this person, they acted out, or I felt uncomfortable, they knocked on the door, I was alone, they asked for money, and they got irate, and they sent them on their way. And I might ask, well did you file a report? And they're like, no, they went away. We would love to be notified for those incidents, even like that. We like to know who the people are, because how do we know they're not doing it to the church next door, or the institution next door? So it's always helpful, just give us a call. We'll investigate. If you ever have that uncomfortable feeling for whatever reason, always trust that gut reaction. And natural, as I said, situational awareness, being that the holidays are approaching. Robberies do tend to spike this time of year. You're doing your holiday shopping. You see a person walk in with a ski mask on. Yes, it's cold out, but you're going to have that feeling. Maybe if we're on the train going to the city and we're reading that newspaper, or we're in our phone texting or catching up on emails, I know if it were me and if I had my bag half open, could someone look at me and think, that girl has no clue what's going on? Let me reach into her bag, take her wallet, or better yet, take her wallet, take her credit card out, put her wallet back. She'll have no clue I was just in her bag. So just keeping an eye out, reporting any suspicions that you might see. For example, that bag left unattended on the subway platform, we'll report it. When we talk about terrorists, part of their plan also is they watch to see if anyone does report it. So they might test systems. So see something, say something. Police departments all over the country use that line, and that's just the easy way to see something, say something. We have that concern about someone, it can't hurt to report it. And we talk about the social media posts. Yes, there are crimes that occur where a person will post a threatening message, such as, they might be specific, I will shoot up the school tomorrow, and they'll post a picture of a weapon, whether it's real or not, doesn't matter. That's a crime. But what about the post of just a picture of a photo? And maybe someone underneath their post says, it's so lonely when you have no one to talk to. Well, maybe if that were the picture of a sunset, we might think, oh, they're just lonely. But even though that example, the second one I gave, is not necessarily against the law, it's still helpful to know, to report that concern. You want to know if that person is a threat to themselves and others, and how do we get that person help? So as I mentioned, the threat assessments and the schools and the businesses, that's the big thing right now that focuses not on the consequences, but of the meaning of the behavior. How can we get that person help? Questions for me? So that's our overview. I will tell you that the actual program is about 1 hour long. We have one for teachers that we'll talk about. We'll go more into the school protocol and the school policy. We also have another program specifically designed for places of worship, called Safety in the Sanctuary, and it's another great program. And we also have a program for businesses that just really focuses on the run, hide, and fight, and for anyone. So basically it's the same exact information, but as I mentioned, schools are a little different because of their own policy and their procedure. And if anyone gains anything from it, it's really that greater sense of awareness. It's not a guarantee that of that active shooter situation, but if we can walk away and be a little more observant, that's great. I will also leave my card if anyone is interested as well. So any questions for me about that topic?
I just want to make a comment. I know that when kids do dumb stuff like post up guns on social media,
Yes.
Snapchat, Instagram, I'm going to do this to the school, you guys have zero tolerance. So
Correct.
I just want to kudos for that, because I feel like that sends a message
Yes.
to other kids, idiot kids in the county that want to do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very different today as we remember from when we were kids, when it was common to put the bomb threat in the bathroom stall to get out of the test or the regents, and it is very different today. And I will also tell you that it is common for when a school does receive a threat that the next day that there is a big decrease in the attendance. But we will tell you the Suffolk County Police Department would never advise to keep the school open if we truly felt that there was a credible threat in any way. And there's always increased police presence when we do get reports of that nature. But yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Of course.
Yes.
I know it's a very controversial subject as far as arming school security guards here on Long Island, but we are having school districts go that route.
Yes.
Is there any data, and who's keeping track of the data of what school districts are armed? Like
Yes.
in our town, in our county?
Absolutely. Our office and the local precincts have a record of that. We work very, very closely with our school districts. And the Suffolk County Police does not have an opinion, meaning we're not either for or against it. We just ask that we are notified when the district does move forward. And of course, being that concern, we don't want that blue on blue situation. So that's all we ask, is that we're notified. So yes, there are a few districts that are armed, and we work with them.
So now with that, is there any public information notifying the public that this district has armed security?
It is public knowledge. Typically, in the past, the districts that have voted, it typically is, there is press involved, so it is out there. I don't have the districts off the top of my head. There are quite a few that do have armed guards, and it's always a very long process as far as the district voting and the meetings that are held with that, as far as the process itself goes. Some districts are in the process of trying to get the votes to go armed guards, yeah.
Where I'm going is, an active shooter may, go for a shootout with a armed school district, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If they know they're armed, they may load up with higher, weapons.
Maybe it's a deterrence, or
Or
even...
an attraction to someone that wants a shootout.
Mm-hmm. And it could be any deterrent. Even there have been incidents where there's been a security guard with just a security jacket on, and that's deterred people. So having the layer in general is great. And more guns to the fight don't necessarily mean it's going to be better. Really, we always ask, when we sit down with churches, we always say, okay, it's great to have someone in the parking lot, maybe that greeter. And because we want to keep the threat out. The schools, the security guards, there's always guards posted outside, just want to keep the threat out. So just even whether armed or not, just having that extra layer of visibility.
Is there any input in the data of, is that school safer now? Because they have armed...
Not necessarily, no. Doesn't mean, it's really whatever the school district decides. I work with schools across Suffolk County. We have our precinct school resource officers. We also have community relations officers that go into the schools, work with the classes. And I found all my districts I ever worked with, quite a few, they're really doing a good job. Really, really doing a great job. Every single one of them. So if that can assure you in any way, it's very impressive actually. And the positive relationship that we have with the school districts, that they invite us to trainings with them. We work with the security directors often. We know each other well, and it's a good thing. Because overall, in any situation, no matter what, communication is really, really important. And communication typically is a thing that goes wrong in a situation. So, good point, great point.
Who regulates, like the schools if they're getting outside?
The school district itself.
Yeah, who regulates the laws regarding them carrying the gun in the school? Who gives them, what I'm saying? What gives them the right to carry? I mean, what's guidelines?
New York State law.
What's New York State law now? Does the Suffolk County Police Department monitor that? Who monitors them that they're within the guidelines of the law?
There is a very, very strict process they go through. We also have our Pistol License Bureau at Suffolk County Police Headquarters. They would be involved.
Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of planning, and of course
I know about pistols.
Yeah.
I know about how you get the pistols and everything. But I was just wondering that part, because I'm not going to get into it here.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering who actually oversees to make sure it's being done, fulfilled, legally.
Yeah, there's a lot involved.
I understand a few school districts which, want to get armed guards that's been kicked around. They actually want to hire retired police officers.
And most of the security guards are retired law enforcement. Most of them are, yeah.
I think that makes a big difference that the public would know that too. Also.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody that's been.
They have a lot of experience, and I'm always grateful because when I go in, they have more experience than I do a lot of times, so it's good, very good.
What teachers who are armed
There are no teachers that are armed in New York State.
Can Mayor,
that we know of?
the governor say he's not gonna allow it?
There's no law.
It's illegal.
Yeah, teachers are not armed.
Yeah, the governor just passed a law that it's illegal now.
Good
Nip that
questions.
right in the butt.
Anything else? Anything else? Questions? Did I say anything that may have confused anyone versus a school setting versus a public setting? I thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the holiday season. Thank you.